The heavy rain lashed against the tall windows of the studio in Shoreditch. Hannah wiped her palms on her jeans, nerves crawling under her skin like restless insects. The glasshouse model stood on the long work table, sleek, angular, and unlike anything the architectural world had seen in years. She had spent 18 months pouring her soul into every detail of it. Tomorrow, it would be presented at the Avalon Design Festival. Her name, Hannah Aldridge, was finally about to mean something. As she triple-checked her presentation files and final sketches, the studio door creaked open. She didn't need to look to know who it was. "Bit of a mess in here, isn't it?" Beatrice's voice, posh and polished, sliced through the quiet. Her heels clicked across the floor like judgment. Hannah turned slowly. "Didn't expect you to show up. Thought modern architecture bored you." Beatrice shrugged, peeling off her designer coat. "It does. But Father said I should support you. You know, the whole family unity thing." Family unity. A joke if she ever heard one. Beatrice had always been the golden child, Cambridge alumna, polished speaker, inheritor of their father's connections. Hannah, the self-taught architect who chose creativity over corporate ties, had always been the overlooked one. They stood in silence for a moment, the tension in the room louder than the rain outside. Beatrice wandered to the model and tilted her head. "You really built this all by yourself?" she asked. "Every beam, every angle." Beatrice smiled without warmth. "Impressive." The next morning, Hannah woke early. Her phone buzzed non-stop, emails, notifications, and a dozen missed calls from her colleague, Freddie. "You need to see this. Read one of the texts." Confused, she opened the live stream link to the Avalon Festival. There on the main stage, beneath a gleaming spotlight, stood Beatrice Aldridge. "And I'm proud to introduce my latest design," she was saying, gesturing to Hannah's glasshouse projected on the screen behind her. "Inspired by sustainability, transparency, and the future of urban living." Hannah couldn't breathe. Her sister had stolen everything. Her design, her vision, her moment. And she had done it smiling. The screen faded to applause. Hannah's hands trembled as she closed the laptop. She whispered more to herself than anyone else. "This isn't over." The day Beatrice stole her spotlight, the world clapped. Hannah, hidden behind her laptop screen in a cramped East London flat, watched her sister soak in admiration that didn't belong to her. Every time Beatrice's name echoed through the speakers, it felt like a slap across Hannah's face. No one knew the sleepless nights, the ink-stained hands, the coffee-fueled sketches. No one saw the girl who fought tooth and nail for a seat at the table. All they saw was a perfectly dressed woman speaking confidently about a project she hadn't even lifted a pencil for. Freddie burst into the flat an hour later, cheeks flushed, glasses fogged from the cold. "I saw it. The whole damn thing. She's a lunatic. Hannah. She copied your layout, your lighting concept. Hell, she even used your phrasing from the pitch rehearsal." Hannah didn't answer. She stared at the still frame on her laptop. Beatrice grinning beneath the Avalon banner, hand extended to shake that of the Mayor of London. "You have to go public," Freddie urged. "We show the drafts, timestamps, your raw files. You have enough proof to make this a scandal." But Hannah didn't move. Not yet. Something about the way Beatrice delivered the presentation made her hesitate. She knew Beatrice. Underneath the gloss and grace was always a strategy. If Beatrice had the audacity to present that glasshouse, it meant she was prepared for blowback. Beatrice never played unless she had a counterattack ready. That evening, Hannah returned to her studio. It felt like entering a crime scene. Her model still stood on the table, but now it seemed lifeless, like the soul had been siphoned out. She sat in the corner and opened her sketchbook. She flipped back through every version of the glasshouse. Early concepts, mood boards, annotations in the margins. One sketch caught her eye, an alternative design she never used, with a signature element. A retractable canopy system based on a fern's movement pattern. Wait. That wasn't in the presentation. She stood quickly, pulled up the recording again, and scrolled to the minute Beatrice showcased the structural diagrams. No canopy. She didn't steal the latest version. She stole the second draft. A chill ran down Hannah's spine. That meant someone close to her, someone with access to her files before she finalized them, had handed Beatrice the older version. Freddie leaned over her shoulder. "That's weird." "It's deliberate," she muttered. She wanted something safe. A version she could memorize. Not the most advanced iteration. So we go with that. Show the public the real final version. The judges will know the difference. But Hannah shook her head. She has media on her side. Money. Influence. If I go public now, she'll spin it. She'll make me sound bitter. Like I'm the failed sister trying to sabotage her. Freddie frowned. So what now? Hannah closed the sketchbook with a snap. I don't fight fire with fire. Not yet. She looked up, her eyes hardening. I rebuild. Bigger. Bolder. And when she sees what I've made, what I can do without her, I'll make sure she knows she picked the wrong architect to steal from. That night, Hannah began drafting again. Not the old design. Not even a revision. A revolution. She called it Project Fernspire. And this time, it wouldn't just be beautiful. It would be unmistakably hers. The headlines wouldn't shut up. Avalon's darling delivers a vision for London's future. Beatrice Evelyn's glasshouse could reshape city architecture. Each article clawed at Hannah's chest like nails on chalk. They called it bold. Innovative. Her design, stripped of depth, meaning and purpose, was now just another tick on Beatrice's polished resume. 4 days, Hannah said nothing to her parents. No calls. No messages. She imagined them fawning over Beatrice at Sunday lunch, bragging to neighbors about their brilliant eldest, unaware, or perhaps uninterested, that their youngest daughter was the ghostwriter of that praise. But while the world applauded, Hannah worked in silence. Her East London studio, once cluttered and dim, took on the energy of something alive. Rolls of tracing paper lined the walls. Wooden models stacked beside sketchbooks. Reese, the structural engineer from a past uni project, popped in on day 4 with coffee and blunt honesty. BEA's stolen your crown. Are you going to mope or build yourself a damn throne? Hannah stared at the skeletal form of Fernspire, her pen hovering mid-sketch. I'm building, she said. She barely slept. Nights bled into mornings as ideas poured out. Fernspire wasn't just a structure. It was a message. Transparent carbon glass panels formed a twisting tower that mimicked the unfurling of a fern leaf. A central living wall pulsed with native greenery. The building could breathe with the environment, shifting its form based on wind and sunlight. But the final stroke came when she etched her initials into the base design. H. Evelyn. Not hidden. Not modest. She was done hiding behind her sister's shadow. 3 weeks later, Hannah uploaded the Fernspire proposal to the Royal Architecture Institute's Rising Talent Submission Board, under her own name. She didn't expect miracles. But it was hers. Entirely hers. She didn't tell anyone. Until the email arrived. Shortlisted. Out of 542 entries. She was one of 10. She dropped her mug when she read it. Freddie hooped so loudly the neighbor downstairs thumped the ceiling. Reese brought over a bottle of sparkling elderflower with a post-it that read, "This is just the start. Burn her tower down." They celebrated quietly. Just the 3 of them, a tangle of laughter and disbelief. For the first time in years, Hannah let herself imagine what life could be if she stopped shrinking to make others more comfortable. But Beatrice had other plans. Days after the shortlist announcement, an envelope appeared at Hannah's studio door. Heavy cream paper. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a single sheet. Typed. Neat. Clinical. Withdraw from the shortlist. I know where you got the Fernspire idea. Don't make me prove it. No name. But Hannah didn't need one. She read the letter 3 times. Then she laughed. Loudly. Bitterly. Because only one person in the world would dare to accuse her of stealing an idea she had buried in her own journals for months. Beatrice knew she couldn't match Fernspire's innovation. So now she wanted to erase it, before anyone knew it was real. Hannah stared at the letter, then at her model. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was war. The letter didn't just threaten Hannah's work, it poisoned her peace. For the first time in years, she locked the studio door at night. Reese noticed. So did Freddie. She kept the letter tucked in a sketchbook, but its words echoed every time she put pencil to paper. Beatrice wasn't bluffing. She never had to. That was the power of someone whose reputation preceded them, who could weaponize suspicion without lifting a finger. And that suspicion was already growing. An anonymous thread appeared on a niche architecture forum. Does Fern Spire look suspiciously familiar to Beatrice Evelyn's earlier glasshouse iterations? No sources. No evidence. Just enough to plant doubt. Comments piled in like dry leaves in wind. Wouldn't be the first time a newcomer rode a legacy coattail. We've seen vertical living walls before. Nothing special. Funny how Beatrice's little sister suddenly shows up with a shortlist nomination. Funny. That word did more damage than any slur. It was a whisper behind closed doors. A raised brow at a panel table. It turned Hannah into a joke before she ever got the chance to speak. The night before her rising talent presentation, she nearly backed out. Reese caught her stuffing the Fern Spire model back into its crate. Hannah, what are you doing? They'll laugh me off stage. If Beatrice's people leak anything else, I'm finished. He stepped between her and the crate. Then finish with a bang. She looked at him, raw and shaking. What if they believe her? Then you prove you were worth believing in anyway. That's how she found herself the next morning, standing beneath the marble arch of the Royal Architecture Institute, clutching her portfolio like it might shatter. Her name was on the program. Hannah Evelyn. Not Beatrice's sister. Not assistant. Just her. 10 minutes. That's all she had. She stepped onto the stage. The room was a sea of architects, developers, critics, and in the back row, sipping her coffee with perfect ease, Beatrice Evelyn. Hannah's throat tightened. But she breathed. And she spoke. She told them about the fern. How it survives where trees fail. How it uncurls in patience, in silence, in resilience. How her design breathed with nature, rather than against it. She spoke not with polished charm, but with quiet passion. At the end, silence. Then applause. Not thunderous, but sincere. Even a few standing. Beatrice never clapped. She just smiled. Hannah didn't need her approval. She had delivered something honest. Undeniable. That evening, her name trended on design blogs. The voice of a new generation. Hannah Evelyn and her breathing tower. But the victory was short-lived. The next morning, the scandal hit the national press. Fern Spire plagiarism allegations. Evelyn family feud explodes. Photos leaked. Old design drafts. Supposed email chains. All pointing fingers. All doctored. And all traced back to one IP address. Beatrice's firm. Hannah sat in her studio, shaking. This wasn't a rivalry. It was sabotage. And it was only just beginning. The headlines spread faster than Hannah could manage. Within a day, Fern Spire's official page was flooded with comments. Her email inbox was a battlefield of media requests, client concerns, and developers hesitating on future collaborations. She hadn't even opened the architectural journal that had once promised her a front cover feature. They'd gone silent since the allegations. Her phone buzzed constantly, but not once did it show Beatrice. Instead, it was Reese who appeared at her door again, this time with a look that suggested even he had begun to wonder. You need to clear this up, he said gently, but firmly. How do I clear up a lie that's dressed like the truth? He said nothing. Because there was no easy answer. That night, Hannah returned to the one place she swore never to go again. Beatrice's townhouse in Kensington. She stood outside for a long moment, then rang the bell. The door opened as if she'd been expected. Beatrice stood there, flawless in a cream silk robe, holding a glass of red wine like it was part of her hand. Well, she said. Took you long enough. Inside, the walls were lined with awards, photographs with world leaders, models of buildings now iconic. But none of them, none, had Hannah in them. I came to ask you to stop, Hannah said. Beatrice sipped her wine, then set it down with a sigh. You think I care about Fern Spire? About your little presentation. You cared enough to fake documents. Beatrice laughed. Darling, if I wanted to ruin you, I wouldn't need forgeries. That laugh, cold and amused, cut through Hannah. But why? Hannah asked. Why now? Because you were supposed to stay in the background. You had your studio, your little projects. But the moment you stood on that stage, used our name, you crossed the line. It's my name too. No, Beatrice snapped. It's my name. I built it. I bled for it. You think you're owed something because you share my blood? That I should step aside and let you chip away at what I've earned. I never wanted to take anything from you. Then why are you here? There was a long silence. Hannah finally said, because the world's starting to believe you. And if you let this go on, I won't just lose Fernspire. I'll lose the only thing I've built for myself. Beatrice's expression softened for a heartbeat, just enough to suggest something unspoken. Then she turned away. I didn't start the leak, she said. Hannah blinked. What? I didn't send those emails. Not directly. She walked to a drawer, pulled out a black envelope, and handed it over. Inside was a security report. It showed someone within Beatrice's firm had accessed her archive files and sent them to press. But it wasn't Beatrice herself. It was Emile, she said. My deputy. He thought he was protecting me. I only found out when the damage was done. Hannah's hands trembled. But you let it happen. You let me get crucified. Beatrice met her gaze. You needed to learn that this world doesn't forgive mistakes. Or weakness. And if Fernspire survives this, it means you're strong enough to deserve it. It wasn't an apology. It was a test. A brutal one. And yet, despite everything, Hannah saw something else. Fear. Not of her. But of losing her position. Of being outshone. Hannah left without another word. But something in her had changed. She would not run. She would not plead. She would build. Even if she had to do it from the rubble Beatrice left behind. Hannah stood alone in the Fernspire office as the night crept in through the glass walls. The city shimmered around her. Alive. Unforgiving. The same city that once cheered her rise now questioned if she ever deserved it. Her inbox buzzed again. Another investor pulling out. She didn't open the email. Instead, she turned to her sketchpad, the one she used before all of this. Before sponsorships, interviews, board meetings. The pages were worn, the edges curled, but inside were fragments of ideas. Real ones. Hers. She flipped through them until she found an old concept. A sustainable community hub in Southwark. It had been rejected 3 times by the city council. Too ambitious, they said. Too radical. But now, it looked like a lifeline. A project with soul, built for people. Not headlines. Reese walked in quietly. I thought you might still be here. I need to stop waiting for the storm to pass, she said. I need to build through it. He walked over, looked down at the sketchpad. I remember this. You showed me this before your first pitch. I think I lost something after that pitch. No, Reese said. You gained noise. You just forgot how to turn it down. The next morning, Hannah didn't go to the boardroom. She didn't answer press calls. She went straight to the Southwark planning office and submitted her design again. This time under Fernspire's name, no celebrity attachments, no PR team. Just drawings. By the afternoon, she got a call back. They wanted to meet. The timing couldn't have been worse. That same evening, an exposé aired on national TV, complete with clips of Hannah's past interviews, side by side with documents Beatrice's firm accidentally leaked. It painted a portrait of an opportunist, a designer who claimed credit for others' work, someone hiding behind branding and brotherly sympathy. Hannah's phone blew up again. But instead of hiding, she opened her social media account, Live. The comment section was already a battlefield. She looked straight into the camera and spoke. My name is Hannah Loxley. I founded Fernspire not to become a celebrity, but to build places that matter. This week, you've seen headlines and leaked files. What you haven't seen is the work. So from tomorrow, I'll be sharing every step of our new project. No filters. No press releases. Just the truth. If that's not enough for you, don't follow. But if you still believe buildings can speak, walk with me. Then she ended the stream. She stood for a long time, waiting for the wave of judgment. But then something unexpected happened. A comment. Then another. Then hundreds. Architects. Students. Clients from years ago. All pouring into her page. Not to attack, but to stand with her. One even said, "You built my father's memorial garden. No headline can take that away." In just 1 hour, her narrative shifted, not by fighting Beatrice directly, but by reclaiming her identity. Still, the war wasn't over. The next morning, Hannah arrived at her studio to find someone waiting at the door. It wasn't the press. It wasn't a client. It was Emile, Beatrice's deputy. His face was pale, his eyes sunken. "I need to talk to you," he said, voice low. "There's something you don't know." Emile looked over his shoulder, as though even the silence of the early morning could betray him. Inside Hannah's studio, he stood tense, wringing his hands. The space was quiet, the soft hum of the heater the only sound. Reese leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, eyes narrowed, not quite trusting, but willing to listen. "I was loyal to Beatrice," Emile began. "For years. I helped her climb the ladder, covered up her mistakes. But this is too far." Hannah didn't respond. She waited. Emile pulled a flash drive from his coat pocket and set it gently on the table. "Everything's on here. The emails, the internal memos." She didn't just leak half-truths. She fabricated documents. She bribed a former intern to sign a statement claiming you stole Fernspire's foundational designs. Reese moved forward. "You're serious?" She forged timestamps, tampered with old software logs. It was all to crush you before the board meeting next quarter. She wants to absorb Fernspire under her own firm. Make you disappear. Hannah's stomach churned, but her voice was steady. "Why now? Why come to me?" Emile looked down. "Because I was next. She started digging into my contracts last week. If I don't act now, I'll be her next casualty." Hannah turned to Reese. "We need to verify this. Quietly. If what he says is true, this isn't just sabotage. It's corporate fraud." Over the next 48 hours, Reese and Hannah locked themselves in the back office. They combed through each file, each forged signature, every deceitful email. At night, they barely slept. But piece by piece, the truth came together like a cruel puzzle. Emile had been telling the truth. By Sunday night, they had enough evidence not only to clear Hannah's name but to bring Beatrice's entire operation under legal scrutiny. But that wasn't enough. Beatrice had used the media to destroy Hannah's image. Now, Hannah would use the truth to reclaim it. On Monday morning, Hannah walked into a live panel on the architects of the future summit. Her appearance had been scheduled months ago, and despite everything, the organizers hadn't cancelled. The hall was packed. Cameras everywhere. Beatrice, seated 2 chairs down, didn't look surprised to see her. She simply smirked. Hannah took her seat, adjusted her mic, and waited until her name was introduced. "Ms. Loxley, your firm has been under intense scrutiny this week. Care to comment?" She looked out at the crowd, steady. "I've been accused of stealing my own legacy. Today, I bring proof that those accusations are not only false, but part of an orchestrated campaign to destroy my work, my voice, and my name." She reached into her bag, pulled out a set of printed documents, the very emails, the contracts, even screenshots of Beatrice's staff coaching the false whistleblower. The hall went still. She passed copies to the moderator and leaned forward. "I won't ask for sympathy. I ask only for accountability." Beatrice stood. "This is absurd. Manufactured slander. Anyone can fake an email." "That's true," Hannah replied without raising her voice. "Which is why I brought the original metadata, digitally verified, along with witness testimony from your former deputy. He's here today." Gasps rippled through the room as Emile stepped onto the stage, pale but firm. The fallout was immediate. Reporters scrambled, board members whispered into phones. Legal representatives began to murmur in the wings. And Beatrice? She walked out. No words. No defense. Just silence. After the panel, Hannah didn't celebrate. She returned to her studio, exhausted. But as she stepped inside, the quiet space felt different. Not empty, but full of possibility. She was still standing. But before the dust could settle, one more letter arrived. This time, not from the press. It was from Beatrice's solicitors. A formal notice. A clause in a shared investment deal between their firms, hidden deep in a contract from years ago, still bound them together. Beatrice might be falling, but she wasn't done yet. And the clause? If activated, it would force Hannah to either sell Fernspire or merge it entirely with Beatrice. The letter lay open on the drafting table. Hannah stared at it, unmoving, as the rain drummed lightly against the studio windows. Reese stood nearby, arms folded. "It's a trap," he said flatly. Hannah nodded slowly. "Of course it is. She knew I'd go public." This clause was her fallback, her last play. The document outlined an obscure clause in their early partnership. One Hannah had signed years ago in good faith, when she still believed Beatrice shared her vision. It stipulated that in the event of a major public conflict affecting brand integrity, the parties must enter arbitration or initiate a full merger. And with the press frenzy now framing the situation as a corporate civil war, Beatrice had found her loophole. "She's trying to force me back into her pocket," Hannah muttered. "Or bankrupt Fernspire trying to fight it." "But there's something she doesn't know," Reese said, stepping closer. "You're not alone anymore." Over the next 2 days, something remarkable happened. The story of Hannah's public defense, the evidence she presented, and the elegance with which she'd confronted Beatrice exploded across the media. But not just tabloids, industry journals, architecture circles, innovation think tanks. They all rallied around her. Even former Fernspire clients began to speak out in her support. And then came an unexpected phone call. It was from Ainsley Rowe. Ainsley had once been one of Fernspire's earliest financial backers, a quiet investor with a reputation for shrewd decisions and ethical business. She had pulled out when Beatrice first started interfering years ago. Now, she wanted to talk. They met in a quiet tea room in Camden. The space smelled of peppermint and old wood. Ainsley sipped calmly, then spoke. "I've watched from a distance," she said. "And I never doubted whose signature was on Fernspire's soul. I believe in what you've built. And I'm prepared to help you buy Beatrice out. Fully. Permanently." Hannah blinked. "You'd invest again?" "I'd invest in you," Ainsley replied. "But you must make it clean. No compromises. Cut her out completely. No arbitration. No half mergers. End it." It was risky. Beatrice had money, power, and a legal team that could drag the case out for years. But now, with Ainsley's backing, and the industry itself watching closely, Hannah had leverage. And so, the counteroffer was sent. A full buyout. No arbitration. No shared future. Just one number. A hard figure. Non-negotiable. Beatrice responded in under 3 hours. The answer was venomous but simple. Accepted. The news broke fast. Headlines lit up with variations of "Beatrice Lang withdraws after public reckoning." Shares in her firm plummeted. She released a short, cold statement about stepping away to refocus. Hannah didn't gloat. She walked alone through Fernspire's offices that evening, now fully hers. She stopped in front of the wall where the firm's first concept drawing still hung. An abstract design of light and shadow she and Beatrice once drew on a napkin in a dingy cafe, before everything soured. She stood for a long while. Then, with quiet certainty, she took it down. In its place, she pinned a new sketch. One she had drawn the night before, in solitude. It was clean. Modern. A balance of flow and form, rooted not in the past, but in tomorrow. A design that reflected Fernspire's next chapter. And her own. The studio was silent. But this time, it was not emptiness she heard. It was peace.